Ladies and gentlemen, here's the information I promised you in regards to the martial law expose video for live stream. I'm hoping this is actually fixing to live stream over to YouTube, as the video is a bit too long to really broadcast, and this is my first time using this particular Xstream program. But it's showing now that it is streaming. So one can only hope. Stay tuned. And this is not wanting to play. Let me go ahead and see if I can't do this. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the video that you are about to see is a direct expose of the martial law that is to be hitting the United States in the next coming months. This video is not intended to be a joke, and it is not intended to scare the populace. It is merely intended to educate and notify the citizens of the United States and get them prepared for what is to come. Some of you may be asking who I am. I am but a mere voice in the wind, shouting to the United States to be prepared for war and be prepared for what is coming in the next few months. Again, I warn you that some of these videos and scenes may be unsuitable for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. During the course of this video, I will be touching on various key points and issues relating to the videos that you will be seeing here momentarily. So, without further ado, I bring you the first video of the martial law expose.
Good evening, everybody. President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
All right, folks, there's a lot going on right now. Decisions being made that are unprecedented and will have an overreaching impact on what it means to live in the United States of America. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives have just overwhelmingly passed the National Defense Authorization Act. Squeezed into this military funding bill are two provisions that give the military not just lots and lots of money, but lots and lots of power as well.
A new generation of surveillance drones could soon be watching us all. The Federal Aviation Administration is expected to announce plans to expand the use of domestic drones in American airspace.
Well, get ready to look up at the sky and see drones hovering above. As of now, unmanned aircraft could only be used by military airspace and by certain law enforcement agencies. But this week, Congress passed a bill that would allow for commercial and private use of the drones.
I have two words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
We're shopping and dining over Thanksgiving and maybe watching some football games. Big government Republicans and Democrats were busy shredding the last vestiges of the Constitution. Senators John McCain and Carl Levin want to enact a law that would declare the entire United States of America a battlefield for the military. They're talking about inserting the Army into domestic law enforcement. Senator Lindsey Graham, who supports this bill, says, quote, "The homeland is part of the battlefield, and people can be held without trial, whether an American citizen or not."
The Department of Homeland Security buying ammunition, now looking to purchase another 21 million rounds of ammunition. This in addition, of course, to the 1.6 billion rounds that Homeland Security has bought in just the past 10 months. Now, to put all of this in perspective, the military used approximately 70 million rounds each year of the Iraq War. 70 million rounds in a war.
If you look at what the Department of Homeland Security has been purchasing over the last year, it comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition, more than 7,000 fully automatic assault weapons, 2,700 MRAP type vehicles, and now drones. Those are instruments of war. Department of Homeland Security, who are they going to fight a war against?
Something happened.
Robert Whitaker, the tactical supervisor for El Paso SRT for Homeland Security Investigations. Well, we have our big vehicle out here. It's an armored vehicle. It's an MRAP vehicle. It's mine resistant, ambush protected. That's what it stands for. This is what we use to deliver our team to high-risk warrant services.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
Important breaking news out of Boston. A pair of bombings rocked the finish line at the historic Boston Marathon.
It was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there. FBI and all these agents coming in, closing things down, going to people's houses. Do we close down cities because there's 10 murders over the weekend in Chicago? We don't do that. But here we close down a whole city, not even allowed to go to a baseball game. I mean, I think it's very, very scary when I look at some of those pictures.
The military likes to perform war games, so that's why we're seeing military on the streets practicing. They are actually practicing. The tanks that we see on the streets and the National Guard patrolling neighborhoods and the practices that they're doing with our local police department, this is all in preparation for martial law, so that when they do actually lock down the country, they've got everything secured.
But I think what we're starting to see, for anybody who is objective at all, is we're seeing a totalitarian system now unveil itself. And ever since essentially 9/11 happened, it's been more and more of these draconian measures that are leading us right down the road to martial law.
Particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
This last week, the U.S. Congress passed a bill which repeals classic comitatus, which means that we have now institutionalized and codified martial law. Right now, the battle against terrorism involves all of us. Everybody in this country is a potential terrorist.
We don't even understand freedom anymore. We are a country that is headed towards socialism, totalitarianism, beyond your wildest imagination. I have to tell you, I'm doing a story tonight that I wanted to debunk these FEMA camps. I'm tired of hearing. You know about them? Sure. I'm tired of hearing them. I wanted to debunk them. Well, we've now for several days done research on them. I can't debunk them.
I don't know anything about them.
It is our government. If you trust our government, it's fine. If you have any kind of fear that we might be headed towards a totalitarian state, look out, buckle up. There's something going on in our country that is ain't good.
And they find a little red dot or a little blue dot on their mailbox, and they wonder what the little red dot and blue dot is. Well, it's marking your mailbox by the government, so when foreign troops come in here on us after martial law, but if you have a blue dot, they take you to the FEMA camps being built by Halliburton right now to house 50 million Americans are building enough concentration camps in America by Halliburton. So I'm going to tell all of you, if you have not bought ammunition, if you have not bought guns, go get them now. Go get them now, because you won't be able to get them much longer.
Change has come to America.
Practice Christianity and you could be court-martialed. That could be the new law of the land for our armed forces, thanks to a proposal by a religious tolerance group that claims Christian evangelists are predators.
Is a war on religious liberty within the military, and that the Christianity of service members is now coming under attack by the Obama administration.
It's so incredible. Here's a new article by Kurt Nimmo that's got links to Fox News, Denver papers, you name it. The state police have gone public and said, we're in federal training now where they're asking us, will we confiscate guns from Christians? Now, do you understand how even more illegal that is? Behind the scenes, they're training for what can only be called a foreign authoritarian takeover of this country via the federal government and the foreign banks. Here's the article. Colorado troopers trained to consider Christians as dangerous terrorists. Absolutely amazing. And it's all bibliographed. It's all linked to it being announced, to it being reported.
The company has now implanted 2 workers with microchips to monitor their movements, causing some to charge invasion of privacy. The company says it's merely a layer of security beyond key cards and clearance codes. I don't get one of those soon. Well, joining me now is Lance Ulanoff, editor-in-chief of PC Magazine. Lance, this sounds like some freaky science fiction book. Tell us what this is about. These 2 workers have microchips?
Right. Well, this is very, very real, and these microchips are about the size of a grain of rice. They get injected into your skin.
Futuristic film. Humans injected with a tiny chip holding the key to all of their private information.
But as you're about to see in our CBS 46 investigation, it's not fiction. In fact, it's being marketed in Georgia as life-saving technology. Life-saving technology.
We have a Florida family who are really pioneers of the brave new world. They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their bodies.
It is the first implantable microchip for humans that has multiple security, financial, and healthcare applications.
One thing I would just suggest, I'm just an outside, soon-to-be investor. I love this idea, by the way, Scott. I think this...
The Northside Independent School District in San Antonio has put tracking chips in the ID badges for more than 4,000 high school students.
Well, it looks and sounds like something out of the future, but a new palm scanning device will help Bossier Parish schools keep better track of what children are eating at. The electronic device will be implemented at all Bossier Parish schools.
Now we're seeing a complete totalitarian takeover of the United States of America. And we've been talking about this for years now. This is the police state. This is the police state. This is what a total breakdown of our society looks like. But we're seeing all of this intensify. This is all intensifying around the Second Amendment. Should we be able to own guns or not? Let's take guns away from the people. These are very big, very hardcore issues.
No matter what your purpose is, you must leave. If you do not disperse, you may be arrested and/or subject to other police action. The use of riot control agents and/or less lethal munitions, which could cause risk of injury to those who...
Wall police now moving in.
American, every person on United States soil or international soil can be deemed as a terrorist. They have really any reason to want to detain you. They don't need to acknowledge your Fourth Amendment rights.
It's what supported things like the Patriot Act and now the NDAA and the ever-encroaching police state.
By order of the City of Pittsburgh Chief Police, I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to immediately disperse.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen the first of 6 videos that will be incorporating into this DVD. Let's discuss with Obama and the New World Order. Since when has there been any other president in the history of the U.S. tried to invoke the New World Order? None. Now, if you look at the Jade Helm 15, you'll notice it was supposed to go into full effect as of July 15th, 2015, and stretch over to September 23rd, 2015, at which time the Pope will be coming down from the Vatican, going over to the UN located in New York to fully institutionalize the New World Order. Now, what does that mean? I mean, what is the New World Order? New World Order is basically a centralizing of all monetary assets and everything that we take for granted, everything that we know of today, you know, that we live by today. It's going to be coming to a complete halt. If you don't agree or abide by this centralized government's, this one government, you know, if you don't abide by their ideology, their dogma, then you're going to become a target. They're going to kill you. They're going to mark you for, you know, depopulation. I mean, it's a scary thought. I mean, you even look at, like it says here, with the senator and the House of Representatives passing the National Defense Act, and Obama signing that into law in effect, and allowing it for the military to come in and arrest you, to detain you without just cause, without your right to due process, which is constitutionally protected. You know, it's completely voiding out your 4th constitutional amendment. So both the National House of Representatives, as well as the Senator or the Senate rather, and Obama himself, they're authorizing this. They're going to sit there and imprison us, anyone who they deem to be a threat to this country or a threat to his control, or whatever the threat may be. Anyone that he feels is a threat is going to be arrested without being charged, without being tried, despite our 4th constitutional amendment. We're going to be imprisoned indefinitely, and who knows what kind of horrors or atrocities are going to happen in these so-called detention camps or prison camps or re-education camps, whatever they want to call them. You know, their current list is being FEMA camps. I mean, also look at the issue in regards to drones. Okay, there's other videos here you'll see where law enforcement is being trained to utilize surveillance drones against its own people. A drone in a well-trained hand can be very devastating. They can launch missiles or rockets up your butt, drop weapon payloads, you know, from miles away. And like he said in his 2nd inauguration, Predator drone, you won't see it coming. The 2 main combat drones right now that are in use are the Predator and Reaper drones. And those are capable of launching some very nasty arsenals right up somebody's butt or to a target they deem might be an actual threat. Hopefully that won't come to pass. I mean, you've got Obama even making a direct comment to it, saying, I got 2 words for you, Predator drone, you won't see it coming. Yeah, there's definitely a ulterior motive, ulterior agenda behind that, because he even looks at you straight face and asks, oh, you think I'm joking? And you saw it in his facial expression and his eyes. Anyone who's familiar with, you know, being able to categorize and basically identify the various facial cues, you can tell he's not lying, he's not joking. I mean, you even got Senator McCain, Levin, and Graham talking about declaring the entire U.S. and all territories a battlefield? Since when are we actually at war on our own country, in our own country, on our own soil? Where's the war? The war does not exist. They are preparing to make one against us via martial law, via the New World Order. Wake up, society. This is not a joke. This is going to happen. Case in point, the Department of Homeland Security purchasing all this ammunition. And for what reason? They say it's to quell domestic insurrection. Okay, here's the question that you need to be asking yourselves. What is going to be the cause of domestic insurrection? What is going to cause us as U.S. citizens to rebel and to insurrect against the government? For every action, there is a reaction. So what is going to be the action that causes us to utilize the reaction of rebellion, of insurrection? It doesn't take a rocket scientist, people. You've got the evidence right there. I mean, what's all this with their war games in our neighborhoods? You know, since when has military ever performed war games in populated neighborhoods? You know, I just saw a video a couple days ago saying that, I think it was out there in Michigan, that the populace out there was in an uproar because of Jade Hill. They were utilizing closed junior high schools. And they said the sounds that you heard were sounds normally associated with warfare. You got explosions, you've got simulated ammunition being fired, automatic machine gun firing. When do you do that in a populated neighborhood? They have training facilities for this. They have training camps for this. They do not and should not do this in populated neighborhoods. If they want to scare the populace, that's a good way of doing it. You know, people that aren't aware of it, you know, you start seeing something and hearing something like that, yeah, and it's especially in your own backyard. I mean, what if somebody's got a heart, or has a heart attack, or has a seizure or a stroke because of this, or goes into a mental state of, you know, unrest? You know, society needs to be aware of this, and the government needs to stop all this. And what's this with them saying that everyone in this country is a potential terrorist? Okay, if we're all potential terrorists, what about our kids? What about our families, our grandparents, our mothers, fathers, you know, sons, daughters? What about our babies? Does that mean they're potential terrorists as well? How can they justify saying that? You know, you even have cops telling you to get guns and ammunition. Since when does a cop actually come out and blatantly tell you in a public speech, if you don't have firearms, don't have ammunition right now, get them while you still can, because in the near future you won't be able to. Even law enforcement, you know, society's most trusted to protect us, they're even telling you, arm yourselves, it is coming. And with the Obama administration declaring Christians as predators, how and where can they justify making that declaration? How can they justify any religious preference to be a terrorist? Christians, nonetheless. You know, there's just no feasible way. Christians are about peace. When do you see, you know, Christians going out and blowing things up or beheading people? You don't see that. Granted, Christianity's had its history with the Crusades and all that. Yeah, that was back in what, over 2 or 3 centuries ago, if not more. I'm not real versed on the history of that, but you know, that's back in the what, early 1500s. We've come a long way since then. Society has come a long way since then. And if the government plans to try to usurp us, try to take over, it's time that we as citizens put our foot down and actually said no more. We should not be the ones fearing our government. It is our government who should be fearing us. Stay tuned for the second video.
Yes, before we call it a day here on Studio B, the world's first trillionaire. You'd think it'd be somebody like Bill Gates, maybe genius investor Warren Buffett. Nope. Instead, it was apparently a regular old guy from East Texas. On paper, at least for a few hours, he says he checked his online account the other day and he saw that he had more than $4 trillion in it. He claims he logged off and logged on several times, and sure enough, yep, the money was still in there. Turns out those trillions were only temporary. The bank claims it was all a glitch, as you might expect. The man says the first thing he thought about was giving back to the community. Generous guy. But then he also said he was going to pay off his debts, and then he was going to use some of that money to make more money.
Hey guys, SGT here, and I have a very special guest on the line. She's a brilliant writer. She's new to the scene, but she's moving mountains all on her own. Her name is Suzanne Posel. You know her work from Occupy Corporatism, Activist Post. You know her work from InfoWars, from SGT Report. Everybody is picking up Suzanne's material. Suzanne, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Suzanne, you're really a great writer. I really have to give you kudos on your
Thank
research,
you.
your hyperlinks, your vetting, your information, and that's why everybody is picking up your articles, because they're very, very detailed, but you're talking about some very scary things. We do that too here at SGT Report. I talk to a lot of smart people. I spoke with James Wesley Rawls not too long ago, who said, and I quote, "We're entering into an age of deception and betrayal by our own government." And Suzanne, that's basically what you've been writing about across the board, whether it's vaccine information or your article titled U.S. Army Tactical Manuals Describe How to Control Domestic Insurrection. Why don't you let people know why you wrote that and what it means?
I wrote because there's a bunch of articles that have come out. It started with Rex 84, and it's turned into a bunch of manuals and a bunch of executive orders that put in place martial law. And the military likes to perform war games, so that's why we're seeing military on the streets practicing. They are actually practicing. The tanks that we see on the streets and the National Guard patrolling neighborhoods and the practices that they're doing with our local police department, this is all in preparation for martial law, so that when they do actually lock down the country, they've got everything secured.
People that don't run in these circles and to whom this information is new, Suzanne, they love to say that we're all conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing nuts because we still live in a republic. But I think what we're starting to see, for anybody who is objective at all, is we're seeing a totalitarian system now unveil itself. And ever since essentially 9/11 happened, it's been more and more of these draconian measures that are leading us right down the road to martial law. What do you think will be the cause of the declaration of martial law? Will it be a financial collapse or something altogether different? We've seen a lot of false flags. What do you think would be the cause of martial law?
Well, I had written an article earlier this week from a U.S. Marine informant and also a Deutsche Bank informant. And in 2008, we should have collapsed. We should have gone the way of Greece. The only reason why we didn't was because the global elite and the banking cartels put it off on the Eurozone and collapsed the Eurozone in order to gain sovereign debt. Sovereign debt is when you actually own the physical land. You don't just own the buildings, you don't just own the people and the money. They're extracting wealth so that the only thing that the governments will have left to give them is the actual land that they own. While they're doing this, they're amassing this wealth in order to redirect it toward martial law endeavor, and not just in America, but globally. They want to lock down every country and force us into global governance, eventually force us into a global reserve currency that is like the Bancor that the IMF has been pushing. So in 2008, when Hank Paulson went to the Congress and said that they had to bail out the banks for $700 billion or martial law would be declared, they weren't lying. They went ahead and passed that, and they gave this money to the Chinese. But the Chinese, since then, have been backing their currency, their fiat currency, in gold. And China's been doing this, India's been doing this, and Russia's been doing this.
Okay. So this is just to confirm that I'm here trying to make a mortgage payment in cash. I have $1,380 sitting in front of me for a $1,371 mortgage payment. And Bank of America is rejecting a cash payment of my mortgage here in Lakeport, California. Is that correct?
So you need to turn that off.
Is that correct?
You need to turn that off, sir.
This is what I've just been told. Bank of America has just refused to accept my mortgage payment in cash and is insisting on a wire transfer. Apparently, in America, cash does not pay the mortgage anymore, is what I'm being told today in Lakeport.
If you go back in history, the reason why we went after Gaddafi was because he was presenting the dinar, which was a gold-backed currency that he was getting together with other countries like in Africa he was going to subvert the global reserve currency, which is the U.S. dollar, and destroy its complete value by backing it with gold, because the central bankers haven't dealt in gold since 1934. So in order to avoid all of this, the central bankers are going after Iran right now, and that's what this war is about, to try and stop India and China and Russia from buying Iranian oil with gold. Because if they destroy the global reserve currency, which is the U.S. dollar, then what we're going to have is we're going to wake up one morning and we're going to be like Greece. And that's going to cause complete panic in this country. So since they already set off the financial time bomb in the Eurozone, they know that it's just a matter of time before it hits our shores. So they're preparing for it. That's why we see all the movement on the streets. People are seeing tanks being moved in Burbank, California. They're seeing in their forested areas, they're seeing police, military, escorting them off the property. National forested lands. This is public land, supposedly. By the way, it's owned by UNESCO, and it's a World Heritage Site, so it's actually owned by the UN. But anyway, people are seeing military on their streets. In Anaheim, California, they announced that because of the protest, it was a state of emergency, which I feel is a code word for martial law. I think they're trying to beta test to see if they can go ahead and lock down the country by doing it incrementally through different stages, causing problems, problem, reaction, solution, causing problems in cities, and then go ahead and locking it down and seeing how it works, kind of like a war game. One thing I forgot to mention was through the Deutsche Bank informant, I was alerted to the idea that they're going to possibly create like an internet virus that would attack the banking system, you know, like they're using Flame and Sussnet. And there's a new cousin of these two that is going around Iran. Mm-hmm. And what they would do was, on a Friday afternoon, they would say, well, we have to shut down the banking system because there's a virus in all the banks. You won't be able to use your ATMs over the weekend, but on Monday morning you'll be fine. Well, if you hear of anything like that, you have 72 hours before they roll out martial law.
So wait a minute, Suzanne, you're saying that if you see anything like that in the news media or otherwise, you have 72 hours? Why don't you repeat that, help people understand what that means?
When they're going to roll out martial law, they think that when the financial collapse hits the shores of the United States, they have 72 hours. So with my Deutsche Bank informant and talks with other people in the alternative media, my contacts, I just think that it's possible that a scenario like this, I'm not saying that this will happen, but a scenario like this, and it would give you something to look for, a little red flag to look for. Let's say that the banks all say that there's a virus in all the banking systems, all of the banks, and they have to shut down, like on a Friday. We know that the Obama administration loves to do things on a Friday afternoon or when we're celebrating New Year's Eve. So Friday afternoon, they would say they're going to shut down the banks and get rid of this virus over the weekend. And on Monday morning, everything would be back up. Over the weekend, you wouldn't be able to use your ATM or pay any bills online, but everything will be fine on Monday morning. That is your red flag. You have 72 hours from that moment to do whatever you were planning on doing, get to wherever you were planning on getting to, hunker down whatever you were planning on hunkering down, because they're going to unroll martial law in 72 hours from that moment, whatever scenario they intend to unroll. And I believe that it has to do with the banks, because they're stealing money from us left and right. In fact, I've gotten reports from insiders that they're taking money out of private checking accounts. They're also stealing heirlooms. The Bank of America has stolen heirlooms out of people's safety deposit boxes and ship them from one coast to another, and then claim that they didn't know that it wasn't that it was this customer's property, and then they'll send it back, but they never do. They're trying to squeeze out as much money as possible. And with MF Global and John Corzine, that was a beta test to see if they could take secured customer funds and get away with it, and they did. They're coming for our private checking accounts next. They're looking for as much money as they can to fund this not only domestic but global police state. So like I said, if you hear of anything with the banking industry, and I personally think it might be a false flag with an internet virus or a virus in the banking system as far as their computers go, then you have 72 hours from that time to go ahead and do what you were planning on doing.
Wow. Well, I mean, we don't know if that will happen, but if it does, if people see these signs that Suzanne just talked about, Suzanne, you may have just saved some lives. I mean, for those who live in inner cities, in big cities, in scary places, be it downtown Chicago, New York, LA, you may have saved some lives. People can get out if they have 72 hours. If they don't have but a couple of hours and there's traffic jams, they're not going anywhere. That's really frightening information. Let me ask you this. In your article from earlier this week, titled DHS and U.S. Military Make Final Preparations Before Announcing Martial Law, about 6 paragraphs down you wrote, the acquisition of armory by the DHS and contracts for bulletproof glass for checkpoint booths to be positioned strategically throughout the nation on public highways have heightened awareness that the U.S. government is preparing for a well-planned domestic military action. DHS armored vehicles have been sighted on highways in Kentucky and across the country, I might add. I guess what I'm wondering, Suzanne, from your expert view, do you think that the military could actually lock down this country? We're geographically gigantic. They had a hard time locking down Baghdad. The reality of this is that the PSYOP, I think, is against the people, to get the people to stand down before any of this ever happens. Because if they move on Chicago or any major American city, it's going to send a message to the rest of the patriots in this geographically huge country that it's time to take action. It's time to embrace the Declaration of Independence and throw off these despots. What do you make of what I'm saying here? What do you think the reality is of them being able to lock down this country in any sort of martial law capacity?
I agree with you that it's going to be difficult, and that's why they've done beta testing. The NATO summit, we saw that they were trying to do that there as well. They've allocated foreign troops. They've been training with the Polish army and the Russian army. The Russian army has shown up in Colorado. There have been reports that the Russian army have been starting the fires. And the reports that I got, that I put in that article that you just mentioned, the fires were started right in front of areas that were militarily secured. So it's my understanding that they might have been starting the fires to try and get people out of the way, get people moved out of the way so they wouldn't see what they're doing. DHS has contracted independent contractors to cover up the holes for the underground bases that they're building. So their use of foreign troops, which goes right back to Rex 84, back in the early 80s, I don't think they're going to have a problem. They're going to bring NATO forces onto the streets and to work with them, and that doubles or triples their military capacity. I think they're going to definitely try this. I think they're going to use foreign troops along with them. The foreign troops also serve 2 purposes. They're extra security, and also if something does happen, well, they can blame it on the foreign troops. You know, they can say, oh my God, the Polish army was here. Oh, the Russians were doing this. We should go and get the Russians down.
Yeah, I think what this government is now doing with these false flags with what I'm calling these false flags that we saw in Aurora and in Wisconsin, is they're doing their level best before martial law happens to disarm the people. What do you make of what I just said there, and what do you make of what I'm calling false flags in Aurora and Wisconsin, Suzanne?
They are definitely false flags. James Holmes had ties all the way going back to his grandfather with DARPA and mind control techniques, and he was studying mind control. He worked with the Salk Institute on mind control and flicker fusion, which is where they insert images into the screen while you're watching television or even on a website, and it moves so fast that only your subconscious picks it up. In Aurora, his apartment was booby-trapped with homemade bombs. And the Pentagon has just come out and said that a lot of people are homegrown terrorists are building these homemade bombs. And so they're asking Congress to relax posse comitatus in order to respond to this.
up on the YouTube channel for The Alex Jones Channel. Meanwhile, a North Carolina police lieutenant warns of plans for martial law coming in 2013. He called in to Pastor Butch Paul's show on GCN Live the other day and described how they are doing training for active martial law scenarios to take place during this year. This clip really speaks for itself. Let's go to that right now.
You're a lieutenant in the police or the military?
The police department.
What's your opinion?
Things are going downhill very quickly, sir.
What are you hearing from your superiors of what's coming down and what you're looking for?
Well, they're looking for it to happen, and they're training for it to happen.
Now you said they're training to take us down or training to defend us?
Yes, sir. Training to take us down. And
really?
Law enforcement here in North Carolina has started training with drones, military-operated drones.
Wow. Okay, they started training with military drones in North Carolina.
Yes, sir. That's correct, sir.
And your superiors are training the forces to take down the American people.
Yes, sir.
If I do win a second term as president, let me just say something to all my conspiracy-oriented friends on the right who think I'm planning to unleash some secret agenda. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to close with a quick preview of the secret agenda you can expect in a second Obama administration. In my first term, we ended the war in Iraq. In my second term, I will win the war on Christmas.
Okay, you've just finished the second of 6 videos that are going to be incorporated. Let's go ahead and discuss the temporary trillionaire, the amassing wealth of the martial law. Yeah, temporary trillionaire. We've been trillions in debt. This so-called country is trillions in debt. And they're saying it's a glitch. Really? I seriously doubt it's a glitch. It might have been a glitch in an accident they put in a person's account and didn't realize that person was going to log in that day. They could have been simply trying to figure a way of masking, the funneling of the money. Who knows? Me personally, if that would have been a glitch, that would have been a very costly glitch for the banks, because I would have immediately started making some major withdrawals on that one. I think a lot of you out there in society would agree with that. $4 trillion, yeah, I'd be writing checks I couldn't cash, and they'd have to deal with it. But that's neither here nor there. But how are they saying this is going to be a glitch? How can they explain that? Notice they don't. They just simply say it's a glitch and they become closed-mouthed. Really. And, I mean, anyone who's got eyes and ears and a brain can simply see that, yes, this is going to be the wealth that's going to be utilized for the martial law, because everyone knows that war of any kind takes money. And when you sit there and print money that says National Reserve Note, as you can see that we haven't dealt with gold since 1934. I mean, our money used to be backed by gold. Do your history. You'll see it. I'm not telling you anything that's a lie or anything that's different. 1934 we stopped using gold, stopped dealing with gold, and we started going over to what they call the Federal Reserve Note. Key word there is reserve. It is a promissory note. Anything can be used as legal tender so long as both parties agree that it can be utilized as a form of legal tender. That's all it is. It's a piece of cotton paper with a small coated strip in it that says, hey, this is how much this piece of paper here is worth. What's up with that? What's up with Bank of America not accepting a mortgage payment paid in cash? How can a bank refuse cash? If it was counterfeit, they would have had him arrested. You see the bank manager tell him, "Sir, you need to turn this camera off." Why? What do they have to fear? What's with the banks stealing our heirlooms out of safety deposit boxes and then claiming ignorance? Yeah, that's a bunch of BS. That's a cover. Why would a bank not accept cash, but the bank itself deals with cash? They want to sit there and say, "Oh, we require a wire transfer." Why? That means you need another bank to do the wire transfer. So it's a bank to bank, yet they deal with cash. That makes no sense at all. Plus, with the foreign troops training in the U.S., yeah, I can see where they can say it'd be a two-part, strategy. If everything goes well, they're going to get all the praise and everything's going to be all hunky-dory. But if things go south, they're going to turn around and say, "Well, the Polish were here, the Russians were here. Let's blame it on them. Let's go get them." So they'd be a patsy, they'd be a fallback or a scapegoat, whatever you want to call it. Since when have we, as Americans, pulled foreign troops, already recognized military personnel from foreign countries, and trained them on our soil? What would be the purpose behind the training? Why are they suddenly training it now? Why is it suddenly coming out into the mainstream now that, foreign troops are being trained? Who knows? Maybe we'll see these foreign troops after all come and try to, help these so-called powers that be. If that's not a clear warning, I don't know what is. Stay tuned for the third video.
In June 2013, and the U.S. government has recently purchased 30,000 guillotines. Yes, you see it right there. Now, this was lobbied for by Congress, and it passed. You have to ask yourself if all the beheadings of the Muslims that they're pulling off, well, the Muslims beheading people all across the place, if this isn't to try to desensitize the U.S. for future events, because as the information comes out, it looks like 15,000 are being currently stored in Georgia and 15,000 currently stored in Montana. Now, you need to go and research Rex 84 and get caught up to speed if you haven't for what is going on with the prison camps. Do you see what is going on behind your back? They've got you blinded by the mainstream media. There's also a little list of all the camps that are in each state.
Listen to this, folks. I was pulled to the side road, which was a new cut gravel dirt road in front of a business, a builder supply business. And the right side of the road was filled with, which I thought was portable toilets. I never looked at them that close. Same in color, maybe black, but which was an odd color. And I asked him about the field of black boxes. What were they? Because I'd never seen anything like that. And his statement was that if he told me, I would be one of few people in Madison, Georgia that knew about them. And he says they're disposable coffins, I believe he told me. And he says there's 100, at that time he said there was 125,000 there. And he said his brother worked with the CDC in Atlanta and had been asked by the CDC to do a 3-year extension to place temporary morgues all across the nation. As I went back to my home office, I spoke of it there, and of course people usually don't want to hear too much about this kind of thing. So it's never been mentioned, publicly, except just here and there. because most, like I said, the reaction I got, people didn't want to know about it, the few people that I spoke to.
And the brother of the man that owns this field, that the government is leasing this field from to store these disposable coffins, this brother was given 3 years to set up temporary morgues around the country. Now, we found the website that we think these disposable coffins were made at, and we noticed that the lids that they're advertising on the website were rounded. But the lids, hundreds of thousands of lids there, the lids we found, folks, were flat, and they were reinforced. You know what that could mean? You can stack them on top of each other. That's a lot neater to stack them in disposable coffins.
Exclusive government activating FEMA camps across America, across the United States. Sent to us by people in government. I'll just leave it at that. And it's got the 5 regions for the FEMA camps, and it talks about barricades and barbed wire and armed guards, and it says that they built the camps and that now they need to get ready to staff them, and that they need to be ready within a 72-hour period. And so I want to challenge everybody to call their friends and their families now and realize that the new economy is to put tens of millions of people, we already have the biggest prison population in the world, in this archipelago, this giant chain of facilities all over the country.
They take you to the FEMA camps being built by Halliburton right now to house 50 million Americans. They're building enough concentration camps in America by Halliburton. Now, if you go out and you find a pink dot on your mailbox, that means that they believe you'll be a good slave and you're going to go along with the program and serve our international Antichrist masters. And that's the problem we have today. This conspiracy is so monstrous, so demonic, that we tell people about it and they say, you're crazy, this is America, it can't happen here.
Last thing the men behind the curtain want is a conscious, informed public capable of critical thinking, which is why a continually fraudulent zeitgeist is output via religion, the mass media, and the educational system. They seek to keep you in a distracted, naive bubble, and they are doing a damn good job of it. This is Aaron Russo, a filmmaker and former politician. To his left is Nicholas Rockefeller of the infamous Rockefeller banking and business dynasty. After maintaining a close friendship with Nicholas Rockefeller, Aaron eventually ended the relationship, appalled by what he had learned about the Rockefellers and their ambitions.
I got a call one day from an attorney woman I knew, and she said, would you like to meet one of the Rockefellers? I said, sure, I'd love to. And we became friends, and he began to divulge a lot of things to me. So he said to me one night, he said that there's going to be an event there, and out of that event, you're going to see, we're going to go into Afghanistan, so we can run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We're going to go into Iraq to take the oil and establish a base in the Middle East, and we're going to go into Venezuela and try and get rid of Chavez. And the first 2 they've accomplished, Chavez they didn't accomplish, and said you're going to see guys going into caves looking for looking for people that they're never going to find. You know, he was laughing about the fact that you have this war on terror. There's no real enemy. He's talking about how by having this war on terror, you can never win it because it's an eternal war, and so you can always keep taking people's liberties away. And I said, how are you going to convince people that this war is real? He said, but the media can convince everybody it's real. I mean, you know, it's just that you keep talking about things, you keep saying it over and over and over again, and eventually people believe it. You know, you created the Federal Reserve in 1913 through lies. You create 9/11, which is another lie. Through 9/11, you're fighting a war on terror, and now all of a sudden you go into Iraq, which was another lie, and now they're going to do Iran. You know, and it's all one thing leading to another, leading to another, leading to another. Now, I would say, what are you doing this for? What's the point of this thing? You have all the money in the world you ever want. You have all the power. I said, you know, you're hurting people. It's not a good thing. And you'd say, what do you care about the people for? Take care of yourself and you take care of your family. And then I said to him, what are the ultimate goals here? He said, the ultimate goal is to get everybody in this world chipped with the RFID chip, and have all money be on those chips and everything on those chips. And if anybody wants to protest what we do or violate what we want, we just turn off their chip.
Wow, that was a bit interesting. 30,000 guillotines. 15,000 being in Georgia and 15,000 being in Montana. What would our government need with 30,000 guillotines? Saw a recent news article to where Obama had silently passed or signed into effect the use of guillotines as an execution method for domestic terrorists or Christians rather, Christian evangelists. But that was also coming out on the alternative media sources as well. Before I go any further, I do want to mention that all these videos are both on mainstream news media as well as alternative media sources. So if you wanted to verify, you can. You'll find some of the videos on YouTube and other sources, so you can do your own research on that. Sorry about having to move the mic around, it's getting a bit irritating. There we go. But anyway, 30,000 guillotines, really? So whose heads are they going to start cutting off? Hopefully it's not going to be ours. Hopefully it's not going to be anyone that we love or that we know. Are they going to start following the ways of the so-called U.S. branded terrorists? How they say that the Muslim extremists and all the other terrorist groups that the U.S. government identifies as being terrorists, how they execute people, are they going to start going by that, just a cleaner version? I mean, I'm no biblical theologian, rather, but if you look in the Christianity's Bible, isn't there a spot in the book of Revelation to where it states anyone who doesn't receive the mark of the beast can't buy, sell, or trade, and that a lot of people are going to die by way of guillotine, getting their heads chopped off? You can do your research on that and follow on that particular line of thought if you choose, but it's just food for thought. And what's with the 125,000 disposable coffins? Since when do you need a disposable coffin, and why are they stacking them all up, and why is it that the CDC is arranging for temporary morgues to be set up? People, ask yourself this: what would be the necessity and the use for a temporary morgue? The key word there is temporary, so that when all the killing and all this BS and beheadings and whatever are done, they can shut the morgues down and get rid of them and say, hey, we no longer need them. But they're setting up temporary morgues. They have, at that time of the initial recording, they had 125,000 disposable coffins. And as you can see from the size and depth of the coffins, you could easily fit 2 or 3, 4, maybe even more bodies in each one, and then be able to stack them on top of each other. Yeah, it makes for a semi-hygienic disposal, granted that. But the question is, what are they going to do with the coffins after they fill them? Are they going to burn them? Are they going to bury them? That would be a lot of soil, tilled up just to bury 125,000, if not more, that are going to be coming out. I mean, you've even heard the recordings with Rockefeller. Rockefeller's desiring a new world order. That much is obvious in his own statements. And he's referring to the RFID chips, putting all the financials, bankings, medical, and all the important information on there. Anyone who disagrees, they just turn their chip off. Well, again, going back to a biblical aspect, biblical perspective, RFID chip that contains every bit of information on you, all your finances, all your medical and all that. If you don't agree and conform to their ideology, their dogma, if you go against them, protest against them, they turn off your RFID chip. Now you can't buy, sell, or trade, or get any kind of medical services or whatever because your chip has been deactivated. Okay, they were initially talking a while back, and there's even some videos on YouTube. The RFID chips are going to be inserted into your right hand. Cross-reference that to biblical perspectives. The mark of the beast, per se, is going to be either in the right hand or the forehead. Granted, they haven't stated that they put an RFID in the forehead, but they did state they put it in the right hand. Cross-referencing it back over to the buy-seller trade, and you couldn't do that without that chip. Is there a coincidence there? You know, mark of the beast and or the chip. Could the chip be the actual mark of the beast? That'll be for future time to decide, you know. But there is a very strong coincidental presence regarding that. And why is Rockefeller desiring a new world order? For control of the masses. He is a major banking tycoon. He who has the money, who has the control, controls the populace. That's all it is. It's a matter of control. The U.S. tries to sit there and say that, oh, we're the world's biggest superpower, or we're one of the superpowers out here. Okay, if we're just one of the superpowers, do you think there's going to be room for envy? You know, who's the weaker countries going to follow if there's more than one superpower? They're going to sit there and say, well, we could follow this country, we could follow that country, but if we want them to all follow us, follow our ideologies, as we've been obviously trying to do in the previous wars and even the current wars, we're going over to Iraq and Iran and Syria and wherever else, trying to enforce and indoctrinate those people with our way of life, our ideologies, our dogmas. How and why are we doing this? You know, who are we as a country to go over to somebody else's country and say, this is our belief, you have to believe in it too? That'd be like me coming to your home and saying, hey, just because I'm this or I'm that, or I believe in this or believe in that, you have to do it too. That is wrong. We have all these freedoms, allegedly, so why are we trying to enforce and enslave the rest of the world to our way of life? That is beyond wrong. Stay tuned for the fourth video.
I had planned another closing message, but I feel compelled to say what I'm about to say. Now, I risk sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but it's no longer a theory. What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government.
Executive order signed by President Obama has sparked controversy on both sides of the political aisle. The National Defense Resources Preparedness Executive Order was signed quietly Friday night. It gives the president the power to control U.S. resources.
The Rules Committee is going to meet in the House. They are going to come up with a rule that makes it okay for them to do a same-day bill. So they'll pass this rule. It's, believe it or not, called martial law.
This would give the President of the United States the authority to declare basically martial law during times of peace.
There are new disturbing developments out of Washington tonight regarding the President's belief that he has the legal authority to assassinate U.S. citizens. Incredibly enough, it appears that our commander-in-chief actually believes that authority exists not only on foreign soil, but right here on American soil as well.
But Senators McCain and Levin have added this legislation which would authorize the president to declare the entire United States of America, all 50 states and all territories, to be a battlefield, even though there's no battle, thanks be to God, going on here.
War on terror is different.
And that would authorize him to use commander-in-chief authority in the United States, to use the military to arrest people in the United States who, in the president's opinion, are enemies of the country.
Particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment.
Joining us now is former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino. Dan, thanks a lot for joining us. What do you mean there's no such thing as gun control, only people control? Tell me what that means.
Tucker, this is larger ideological ploy by this administration. They're not being authentic with America, whether it's the sequester, health care, or the gun control issue. What they do is they manipulate an emotional crisis, a national emotional crisis, to further an ideological agenda which involves the evaporation, the slow disintegration of your civil rights, your liberties, your ability to live and let live. And it's a disturbing pattern that, frankly, is really starting to get under my skin.
The US is funneling money into tracking systems that are threatening to make the very concept of privacy a thing of the past. It could mean people's every move being used against them to keep them under surveillance.
The information age was an era nearly everybody embraced. But today's surveillance age, experts say, is a reality almost no one can escape.
David, why does the DHS need 450 million hollow point bullets?
That kind of ammo that they purchased from ATK, hollow point ammunition, as you had explained, it's designed to, tear through human flesh and then expand. It's designed to kill people. This is not the optimal kind of ammo you would buy for target practice. It's more expensive and it's more precise.
Do you think this is a sign that they're preparing for some sort of mass civil unrest?
So they have an open bid right now, DHS, for even more ammunition, for 175 million rounds of .223 caliber rifle ammo, almost identical to the ammunition used by NATO peacekeeping forces. So that's very interesting. Are they planning on some kind of widespread economic unrest in the U.S. that would require NATO forces to help us out?
$500 million in surplus military weaponry from the Pentagon, which is authorized through the Pentagon's 1033 program. During the late 70s, Congress passed legislation called Posse Comitatus, barring the military from operating on American soil, and in the early 80s there was an effort to circumvent that in Congress by arming police with military-grade weaponry, and now we're seeing that play out in the streets. People in the inner city in the U.S. have been experiencing this. So civilians in the U.S. are now up against basically military-style policing.
Wow. Don't really know what else to say on that one. I mean, Obama's license to kill. He thinks that he has the executive authority to kill people, to assassinate people that, don't believe in his ideology or he views as a threat. Since when did we ever incorporate that as part of a presidential authority? He thinks that his authority not only extends to foreign soil, but also over here to U.S. soil. That is a bit presumptuous, to say the least. I mean, like I said, that's got me at a loss of words on that. If he's going to sit here and try to think that he has a license to kill, okay, that's what, James Bond 007? I mean, he's some sort of secret agent. He can go out and kill people with a license to kill, or order military or law enforcement or whoever he wants to order to go out and kill somebody just because he don't feel that they're going to be a good little slave to the New World Order or to his regime. That is beyond being messed up. That's definitely something to think about next time, we go to vote. Because as it stands right now, there's been rumors circulating around that he's going to try to invoke the martial law and possibly suspend our 2016 elections so he'd stay in office. The only way he can do that is to declare a national state of emergency, which would warrant the martial law, and then he can invoke the executive orders. The question is, though, what's the national state of emergency going to be? Again, with alternative media, there's been rumors he's going to try to utilize the alleged breakdown in our country's border, the alleged breakdown in financial collapse, whatever he chooses to try to use as a patsy, as an excuse. All we can do is wait and see. Stay tuned for the next
The
video.
FEMA plans to imprison American citizens have generated a lot of interest around the country in locating the potential prison camps throughout the country. These may be facilities currently being used as prisons, such as those you saw earlier, or prisons that are being built supposedly in the name of the war on drugs, or facilities that have other uses but which could be quickly used to detain large numbers of people, such as this Amtrak facility in Beech Grove, Indiana. We're standing now in the main parking lot, which doesn't look too sinister. At this level, it is a very large parking lot, fenced on all sides by fence topped by barbed wire. It also has these electronically operated turnstiles. There is also a surveillance camera, just like we saw at the FEMA facility, pointing out to the parking lot, and a helicopter windsock. All of these apparent security measures are particularly unusual here, because this is a very low crime area, and this facility is nothing but an old train repair station with nothing in it worth stealing. In this portion of the parking lot is a brick building, suitable for processing, next to a gate that leads right out to the railroad tracks, and all of this is contained inside a fully fenced area, now 3 layers deep in fencing at this point. This U.S. Air Force train indicates federal and military involvement. Facing the opposite direction, you can see that this area, too, is a very large fenced area with railroad track running the length of the fence and plenty of warehouses. This facility was supposed to have closed in June of 1993, yet instead several $1 million in federal funds have been spent on supposed renovations over the past 2 years. Helicopter windsocks and markers are evident throughout the property. This small building is the only way into a particular fenced area. Inside this building, we see more of the motion-activated detectors, electronic turnstiles, and prison bars. All of the renovations to this property have involved putting in new fencing, electronic turnstiles, concrete flooring in unused warehouse buildings, and putting in large gas furnaces on buildings that were never heated any time in the past 20 years. Outside this building is fencing and a cattle run section of fence, all topped by barbed wire, pointing inward, not to keep people out, but to keep people in. This was common throughout the facility, particularly the new fencing that had been erected. Inside the fenced area on the other side of the building, you'll see signs that say Red Zone, right up next to the railroad tracks that run the length of the fenced area. Next to the Red Zone sign, you can see closely numbered markers on the fences that are too closely spaced to be parking markers, just as if they plan to have people line up to board the trains. Here's a helicopter marker on the power lines outside the facility, indicating expected helicopter traffic, and again, another tall radio antenna. Looking around, you can get an idea of how huge this place is and how many people it could contain in its fenced-in area. In yet another fenced area, we see a large warehouse building at the end, with the electronic turnstiles in front of it. The building is one that has a new concrete floor, and its doors and windows have all been blocked. Outside, there are new gas pipes. Even as we were filming, a black helicopter flew over us, observing what we were doing, which has happened many times when we have been at the facility. The gas lines and gas pipes at the facility run the length of the buildings. And come out at some very, very large, brand new furnaces that have been installed at the buildings throughout the facility. We found this crane, which has seen better days, but is plainly marked U.S. Army in the middle of the stockyard. We found other fully working military trucks and equipment here at other times. Inside the facility, we found large fenced-in areas next to the railroad tracks marked green zone and blue zone, suitable for holding a lot of people. Many of the old warehouse buildings have had new concrete floors put into them. Unused sections of railroad track have been dug up and replaced, and from the supplies in the stockyards, it is obvious they will be doing even more construction and fencing. Senator Lugar of Indiana recently obtained more federal funding to renovate this facility, which is supposedly only for the repair of broken trains and where most of the buildings on the property haven't been used for years. It certainly appears they are expecting more than just broken trains. This tower, overlooking the entire facility at one end of the facility along the railroad tracks, also has a radio antenna on it with a ladder up inside of it. It would make an excellent watchtower.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, they're also taking Amtrak facilities and other facilities for that matter, converting them over to FEMA camps. If you do a simple Google search, you'll notice there's over 800 confirmed FEMA camps stationed all throughout the United States. In direct relation to the previous comments earlier in this video regarding the red dot, blue dot, pink dot, red or blue dot, yeah, you're going to be going to one of those camps. And I don't particularly have the link for this anymore, but I do know it's still out there. I have to do a little bit more research on this. But there is a link that's out there. You can find it on Google, and you will be able to locate the 800 plus confirmed camps that are stationed throughout the entire U.S., and you can find out exactly what region you're in, so you can narrow down what possible camps they can send you to. And if you wanted to take your research a bit farther, get the geographical or coordinates or the actual physical address location, go out there and take a look at it. You'll have to go on the outskirts of the property, of course, or on the public side of it. You won't be able to go into the property. But if you do that, also keep a very close eye up into the sky. See if you got any of those black helicopters like you saw in the video just now. I mean, if they're going to sit there and monitor all these camps, then most likely, yeah, you'll see them. You'll see them. Well, I don't know how else to put this. I'm presenting the evidence out to you. You have members of society, in hopes that I can edge and wake you up from your slumber. It's time to not be complacent. It's time to be not be a pacifist. It's time to actually take a stand. They say we have justice and liberty for all. Okay, where is justice when we're getting our heads cut off, when we're being told we can and cannot do? Where is the justice when we're having our liberties and our rights taken away from us for no reason? It's time we took a stand. Locate the FEMA camps, do your research on them, and for those of you who are more technologically adept, if you can, get the blueprints. They should be in city records. Pull blueprints. That way you can see the actual buildings, structures, and compare them from the actual blueprints that are recorded to the current visual aspects to see what's been added or modified, or what's there and what's not there. Stay tuned for the next video.
Good afternoon. My name is John Michael Turner. I currently reside in Burlington, Vermont. I served with Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines as an automatic machine gunner. There's a term, once a Marine, always a Marine, but there's also the term, eat the apple, F the core. I don't work for you no more.
That was John Michael Turner stripping his medals and ribbons from his chest and throwing them into the audience to the applause of attendees at Winter Soldier. Turner then went on to describe some of his time in Iraq.
On April 18th, 2006, I had my first confirmed kill. This man was innocent. I don't know his name. I called him the Fat Man. He was walking back to his house, and I shot him in front of his friend and his father. The first round didn't kill him after I hit him up here in his neck area. And afterwards he started screaming and looked right into my eyes. So I looked at my friend who I was on post with, and I said, well, I can't let that happen. So I took another shot and took him out. He was then carried away by the rest of his family. It took 7 people to carry his body away. We were all congratulated after we had our first kills, and that happened to have been mine. My company commander personally congratulated me, as he did everyone else in our company. This is the same individual who had stated that whoever gets their first kill by stabbing them to death will get a 4-day pass when we return from Iraq. There was one incident where we got into a firefight just south of the government center, about 2,000 meters. We had no idea where the fire was coming from, and the way our rules of engagement were, pinpoint where the fire is coming from and throw a rocket at it. So with that being said, we still didn't know where the fire was coming from, and an 84mm rocket was shot into a house. I do not know if there was anyone in it. We do not know if that's where the fire was coming from, but that's what was done. Please go to the next image. This man right here was my 3rd confirmed kill. As you can see, he was riding his bicycle. Later on in the day, we went ahead and we had CBS Laura Logan with us, but she was with the other squad. And so she wasn't with us, so myself and 2 other people went ahead and took out some individuals because we were excited about the firefight we had just gotten into, and we didn't have a cameraman or woman with us. With that being said, anytime we did have embedded reporters with us, our actions would change drastically. We never acted the same. We were always on key with everything, did everything by the books. The man on the bicycle, he was left in the street for about 10 minutes until we realized that we needed to leave where we were. And his body was dragged about 10 feet to the right of him, where his body was thrown behind a rock wall, and his bicycle was thrown on top of him. Another thing that we used to do a lot was recon by fire, where we would go ahead and try to start a firefight if we felt threatened in any way, shape, or form. There's one particular incident where we were working with the Iraqi Army and the Iraqi Special Forces in downtown Ramadi, and with our squad and the Iraqi Army, there was also lieutenant colonels, majors, first sergeants, and sergeant majors. Sergeants major. With that being said, the Iraqi Army would go into the house, kick in the doors, and then go ahead and shoot. And there were loud bursts of machine gun fire. We thought we were taking fire, but then we later found out that it was them. House raids. Because we were a grunt battalion, we were responsible for going on several patrols. A lot of the raids and patrols we did were at the night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, around there. And what we would do is just kick in the doors and terrorize the families. That was an image taken around 3 o'clock in the morning through night vision goggles. And that is the segregation of the women and children and the men. If the men of the household were giving us problems, we'd go ahead and take care of them any way we felt necessary, whether it be choking them or slamming their head against the walls. If you go back to that one picture, that was one man that wasn't taken, that was taken care of in a very bad way. Because of all the wiring that he had, it would be considered an IED making material. On my wrist, there's Arabic for FU. I got that put on my wrist just 2 weeks before we went to Iraq because that was my choking hand. And anytime I felt the need to take out aggression, I would go ahead and use it. Please go to the next picture. Next. There's an instance of detainees and how they were treated in a nice manner. Next. That is the Fatima Mosque minaret. As you can see, it is written with bullet holes and holes in the top of it. Those were from mortars. And the next video that I'm going to show you is a tank round that went into that minaret, where we weren't sure if we were taking fire or not. I'll talk about this one. This is after one of the guys in a weapons company had gotten shot. This is a way that we would take out our aggression. For those of you who don't know, it is illegal to shoot into a mosque unless you are taking fire from it. There was no fire that was taken from that mosque. It was shot into because we were angry. Okay, please play the next video.
We are on ice cream, trying to suppress the blue and white minaret named Fatima Zara. Go ahead and take another take around that door. That's that mosque door. Another round, Kilo 2. Yes!
Next image. That, okay. With that being said, there's many more stories and incidents for me to talk about, although we don't have the time to. But this just goes to show you that that was the after effect of the tank round. This just goes to show you that everyone sitting up here has these stories. And there's been over 1 million troops that have gone in and out of Iraq. So, the possibilities are endless. Next image, please. The reason I am doing this today is not only for myself and for the rest of society to hear, but it's for all those who can't be here to talk about the things that we went through, talk about the things that we did. Next image. Those 4 crosses and this memorial service were for the 5 guys in Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines that we lost. Throughout our unit, we had 18 that got killed. With that being said, that is my testimony. I just want to say that I am sorry for the hate and destruction that I've inflicted on innocent people. And I'm sorry for the hate and destruction that others have inflicted on innocent people. At one point, it was okay, but reality has shown that it's not, and that this is happening, and that until people hear about what is going on with this war, it will continue to happen and people will continue to die. I am sorry for the things that I did. I am no longer the monster that I once was. Thank you.
Former Marine John Michael Turner fought with the 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines. The videos and photos the soldiers showed can be seen at our website, democracynow.org. This is...
Well, that particular video, it's a bit disturbing. Now you see just firsthand that when it's behind closed doors, or in that case, without the media present, behaviors are a lot different. The truth becomes prevalent. But when there's a media outlet to where society can see what's going on, everything gets watered down. You know, there's really nothing to say on that particular video. There's no real major points, except to say that now you see firsthand that they don't care, the government that is, not the troops. The government doesn't care as to what orders it gives you. They're just simple pencil pushers. You know, you figure if they're going to give you an order that directly violates rules of engagement, you know, what else can they give you? What other orders can they try to give? You know, it's saddening and disheartening that orders like that are coming down. But, you know, like the old saying goes, shit rolls downhill. That is true. It becomes a snowball effect and starts rolling as a little itty-bitty ball at the very top of the mountain. And as the further it gets down, the bigger that ball gets towards an unstoppable force. I want to take this time now to thank everyone who has viewed this DVD in its entirety. I ask now that you share the DVD or the content therein with your friends, your family, relatives, your neighbors, you know, whomever. I give special thanks to everyone who's produced the video snippets that you've seen within this DVD. I give full authorization to duplicate this DVD in part or in full, whichever you choose, for the purposes of redistribution, only on one condition: that the redistribution of this DVD